Jerrell Bass.
Hey, how are you, Ron?
Doing good. Doing good. See, man, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is this the first time we've been on camera together?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I mean,
you don't get me on camera very often, man. I dodge pictures at weddings and everything.
Is that it? I was just thinking. I mean, I've known you for such a long time. I feel like I know you. I've never even seen you before.
Really? I thought I thought we'd at least seen pictures of each other.
Yeah,
maybe it's a good thing.
Oh, you're a fine looking man, Jerrell. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you do that.
I get mistaken for Brad Pitt all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For hair club commercials.
So before we get started here, okay, and guys, welcome. Hey, if you're coming into the room right now, because I know we're on Realtor time, so everybody will show up 5 minutes late generally with a glass of wine, or a cup of coffee, depending on what time zone they're in. But if you're coming in right now, you can go to this little URL down at the bottom, StreamYard.com/Facebook, and click the button, and then you can chat in the chat window, and we'd love for you to do that because I'm interviewing the one and the only Jerrell Bass. You guys are going to learn a ton from Jerrell today. So, Jerrell, you ready to bring it? Are you ready to bring it? Okay, because I bragged.
My part. I got 30 some years of experience in this crazy industry, so
you're pretty old. You're really getting
I know. Old. I'm starting to look like my dad. I'm looking at myself going, damn, what's my dad doing here?
That just happened to me last night. I told Cindy we were walking into a restaurant. There was a big glass window, and I'm looking down where I'm walking. I look up in the reflection in the mirror, and I thought it was my dad. It was just like, it was the weirdest thing. I lost dad several years ago, but it's like I'm starting to look like him. So I don't know that's a good thing, but I guess.
Hey, God made us all in one way or another, didn't he?
So hey, before we get started with anything, we got a lot to cover here. Okay, we got to get on a level playing field with one thing, right now, right up front here, so that everybody knows. Write it down here. Is it Jerrell or is it Jerrell?
That's a 54-year-old question, man. It's actually Jerrell. It's like the easiest way for anybody to remember it is everybody can remember Terrell. So if you just say Terrell, but with a J, so it's Jerrell.
Jerrell.
Yeah.
I knew that.
I got Jared. I got Jerrell. I've got, if you're under 4, I got Giraffe or Gingerell. You pick your poison.
That'd be a hard name. That's like a very Southern name, isn't it? Is it?
I thought it was more, black.
It seems
that's what everybody thinks. I'm a black guy until they actually meet me.
It seems there's nothing wrong with that. It sems like a very Southern.
I got to take that as a compliment.
I always, and I think first 2 years I knew you, I was calling you Jerrell, and
it usually works itself out about that time frame.
You called and left a message for me one time and said, "Hey, this is Jerrell," and it was like, you got that wrong. I know you got that wrong. Tough name growing up, though.
Yeah, and it's a middle name too. So my first name is Jesse, which is like an honorary gift to my grandfather. He had 2 daughters, so instead of carrying on a last name, he got to carry on a first name. So everybody, it's kind of a blessing because when someone calls and said, "Hey, is this Jesse?" I instantly know it's somebody that I don't know.
Family, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So okay, with a name like Jerrell, I'm thinking every time your mom called you, Jerrell. I mean, you don't automatically almost feel like you're in trouble, just the way it.
Well, when she says Jesse Jerrell, then you know you're in trouble.
All right. Well, enough of that.
It's hard to yell Jerrell.
Well, Jerrell, it is so good to see you here today, man, and I'm glad we finally got on camera together.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super glad about it. So, guys, as we get into this, and welcome. If you're here today, please go to the StreamYard.com/Facebook, click the little OK button, and you'll be included into the conversation. You're probably going to have a question or two. If you do, or if you think one, this is the time to ask. One of the most knowledgeable people that I've ever met, well-rounded people in the home building industry, Jerrell Bass. Jerrell and I have known each other for a number of years now. And really, you're kind of like the Renaissance man of home building, I think, Jerrell, because you
Getting in that group. Yeah.
I mean, you've been, as I recall, you've been a custom builder, you've been a big builder, you've had several different roles within big builders, you've been on
Correct.
the sales side, you've been a realtor,
Yes.
you've been, and now you're in solar,
Correct.
and you've got other entrepreneurial opportunities as well. So you've kind of been around the. Which one do you feel like is your strongest forte? If you had to like line out, here's my one or two top things that I own, in my
I
wheelhouse.
would say tops would be kind of like an operations standpoint when, going into working with directly with a division president, kind of like his right hand person, and corresponding with the sales team and the construction team and the office team, having done almost all of the roles at some capacity or not, it's easy to put myself in someone's shoes and go, yeah, I know what it's like to sit in a model center and not have any traffic, or I know what it's like to build a house and you can't get supplies or subs or the weather. And then even with the office staff, when you're starting up a division, you and the division president are the office staff. I mean, you're the receptionist, you're the permitter, you're the closer. And then as you can close more homes, you get to take on those members to help you out. So I say like operations is my favorite, and that's where I thrive at. Second's probably sales and construction are kind of a tied for two. I love to take a piece of dirt and turn it into a home for someone, 4 to 6 months or a year later, ever how, long the build time is for the home. And I've always enjoyed the sales side of it too. When people come to your model center and they're looking for a home, especially like first time home buyers, because they're like excited and they don't know anything and they're just hoping they can qualify for a home. So that's my top three.
Yeah, I love it. And it wasn't all in Florida, was it? Or was it? Has it all been in
No, I
Florida?
started out in DC. I started out in Northern Virginia when there was a Ryland home, which everything either turns into Lennar or D.R. Horton. Ryland eventually turned into Lennar. So I started out selling with them. I just fell into the industry. Fraternity brothers were already up in that area. They moved up there and said, hey, you need to come up here and start selling homes. We're making, 3 or 4 times what the regular job fair of things are offering out of college. So I just moved up there, and it was a horrible time to be in the industry. So I actually started putting up those little directional signs that you used to see. They call them bandit signs. That was my intro to the business, is in Northern Virginia and Maryland and DC, putting up what directional signs where it had like Lennar or D.R. Horton, and it had the arrow directing people into the community, and got to know all the sales managers, and then eventually got an offer from one of them to work with Ryland.
So that was your job, is putting up directional signs for one of the builders before you?
Yeah. We would rent a car from Avis, fill it up with signs in the back, and put up signs up front. I worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just putting up signs from everywhere from Northern Virginia to Maryland.
I got to say that's still a kind of a mainstay of new home neighborhoods in a lot of big metro areas. I don't know if it is there.
You got to get, now they've regulated. The government's figured out they can't keep people from putting them up because they just sneak them in. So now they just make you have a permit. So you get a little permit sticker, and you put it like your car. You put it on the right side or the lower, wherever their requirement is on the sign. You put it on the sign, and then when the little code enforcement person rides by and sees the sticker, you're good to go. If not, they halt your COs in the permitting office, and then you can't get your CO until you actually pay your permit fee, and then you're fined.
I always love when you pull up to one of the intersections, one of the main intersections, like, recently, or I guess it was a year ago, Cindy and I were up in Chicago, and we're driving around looking for the new home neighborhoods. And, all of a sudden you come up to that one intersection, and it's all over the place. And you got Lennar and Polk Brothers and DR and, MI and Fisher and everybody. And then, well, let's go this way. And you take a right, and you find out that the directional sign is 45 minutes away from the neighborhood. So, I mean,
yeah, that's what every sales manager wants, is they want to pull traffic from the neighboring community.
Yeah, from the neighboring state. Yeah,
pretty much.
So you started doing the signs, and then they said, hey, you're pretty good with this stuff. Let's bring you into construction or operations, and started moving into that. And that was with Ryland. Who else were you with during the number of years that because you had a few different
started out with a few. Started out with Ryland, and then moved met my wife, and she's a native Floridian. Got her in the industry. She was with a builder called Washington Homes up in the Northern Virginia area. And it's tough to take a Floridian out of Florida once they hit a winter or two. They find a winter in Northern Virginia, and it's like, all right, this slipping and sliding and black eye stuff is for the birds. So we moved back down to Florida. Got a job with like a more of a regional builder for Florida. It's called Miranda Homes. They're out of Pittsburgh, and they're out of Pittsburgh, and they operate in Ohio and probably about 5 different states now. But then it was just Ohio and Florida. But in Florida, they were doing, a couple thousand homes a year, 20 years ago. And they had me selling with them. And then they said, if you want to move up, you got to go actually build houses. So I went from selling homes one week to sweeping out garages and caulking windows as an assistant superintendent next week, and did that for about 2.5 years. Got to where I was running about 80 homes at a time with them, because they were starter homes anywhere from 1,200 square feet to 2,000 square feet, and they didn't allow any changes, so it was pretty easy to build homes.
Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, then I moved. That's when I moved into that operation roles, and we seemed like I had the specialty of going into like, hey, we're going to start up this division over here. We need you to help it start it up. And then, hey, we're going to start up this division over here. We need to help you up. So you would go into an area. It would be generally me, the division president, and the construction manager, and we would just start putting the sub base together and build some homes, and then try to put the sales team together to sell them. And then we would be doing the permitting and the closings and all that as a group, and just started adding on staff as we grew.
Wow, that is an entirely different perspective than most people on the real estate side, the realtor side, ever get a picture of. But is that generally the way it works? You send in 3 people. You have your expansion team is basically 3 of you, and then what? And then you start looking for land.
Well, now they seem to. It used to be where it was a big deal if you did 500 homes in a division. Now, it's nothing uncommon in Tampa here, where Lennar will do 3,500 homes just in one division. So that being said, what they've done, instead of you going from this city to the city that's an hour away, they just keep it all under one big umbrella. And so now most builders have just kind of said, hey, it's more efficient and more economical for us just to run it from one main hub. And then they'll send like a construction person over there and try to hire a local person who can, knows the realtors and and set up the sales team like that. So it's not commonplace to do that anymore. They've actually got more streamlined and efficient.
Jerrell, were you involved in the land acquisition side of things? Were you having to do the land purchases or identifying raw land to start the neighborhoods?
A little bit with the raw land, not a whole lot. Most of it by then, it had been with a developer, and they took it through all your engineering and your entitlements and the permits, and then we just would buy the lots directly from an actual developer. But they did take us out and say, hey, we're thinking of this area. Would you guys possibly be interested in it? They would give us like almost like a first right of refusal, because we were that builder that would go in behind the gun range and build houses and somehow make it work, because we could offer such great value to people. When you're looking for your first home and you're trying to get out of an apartment, a lot of times you're just like, hey, I just want to own a home. So they would take us in and do stuff like that. But most of the time it was more, hey, we got this lot. Here's our contract with our takedown and the schedule like that. So it wasn't a whole lot of land development.
Mm-hmm. So guys, I think this is a really a unique perspective that Jerrell's got from being that. And then you also spent a time working for a franchise builder, if I remember right. Where I don't know if I'm calling it the right thing. How do you describe it?
Yeah, it was total franchise. I think most people in the States here would recognize Arthur Ruttenberg as a name for a home builder. This was the counterpart to that, but they were based out of Australia. They had been hugely successful doing it in Australia, but Australia has different ways of doing business than us. It's very commonplace to go into a big planned community in Australia and you can just buy lots and build. You can't do that as a small builder here in the States. You can't go into a big planned community and say, yeah, I'll take down this. You can't afford to.
Yeah, so, I think it's growing here. It's J.G. Gardner or G.J. Gardner, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gardner Homes. They
Yeah.
started out in California with a person that actually came from Australia to get it going, and then they branched off to Colorado, and then Indiana, and up in the northeast, like Massachusetts, and then I came aboard with Texas.
So in
So
that model, you're looking for generally a custom builder who's already got a business, but they can expand.
yeah,
How's that look? Who's your customer there? Your customer.
um,
You're setting up franchises.
most of the ideal customer would be someone who's already doing 2 to 5 homes as a custom builder and needs systems in place. So we came in and we would offer the software that managed all of their virtual, like their purchasing, their payroll, their so it was like an all-in-one software. And then when they were working with me, I would help them put a sales team together, try to get them a location that they could afford. The ideal location would be like, hey, we're in a strip mall. There's a coffee shop. There's a salon. There's a Chinese restaurant where a lot of people are coming and going because it was all design build. So people would come into us and say, hey, I had this idea. I drew it on a napkin, or I saw it on floorplans.com, and I like this floor plan here, and I like that floor plan here. We would take our architect and our draftsman and have them merge that together and then build for the customer like a custom design. So it was all like construction perm loans, and the ideal customer was actually somebody who was doing, like the best example I have, one guy was doing like 2 or 3 homes a year. We got him up to about 15 to 20. And it was all just putting systems in place where he could actually run a business instead of just being the jack of all trades. Because he'd build one home and then they would refer him to a neighbor or a friend, or somebody in the neighborhood would say, hey, you built this home, how about bid one for me? But when he actually had an active sales team that were actually going out helping him drive business, he went from like 2 to pretty close to 20. I think the height topped out about 19 in 1 year.
Yeah, it's really, this is the kind of stuff that, realtors really don't come across, or they don't understand different business models that builders have. I think you've got a really unique experience being with, heading up franchises and big builders, and you were a custom builder for a while as well, right?
Yeah, I did my own custom building. I got to that fork in the road where, like, all right, you can come over here and be a division president, or you can go build homes for yourself. And I chose to go build homes for yourself. Got my general contractor's license here in Florida, and just went and got a bank line of credit, set up everything you need to do a business with your liability insurance, and started building homes.
So let's talk about builders for a little bit. When you look at builders today, and you've been around the map and seen so many different builders, and small builders that are becoming franchisees, and big builders that you've had to help set up divisions. What do you think are a couple of the main challenges that I don't even want to talk about today necessarily, but in general, with a small and growing builder, what are 2 or 3 of the main business struggles that they have in general? Is there a way to kind of quantify those?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing that every business struggles with, whether you're selling, I don't know, a coaching service, or you're selling, a storefront thing. You got to get leads because sales drives everything. So if you can't sell your product, or you happen to build a product and then nobody wants it, you're out of luck. So you either need somebody that can go out and pre-sell it and you just build it for somebody, or you need somebody that can actually sell it once you build it. You just kind of have to determine what you are. Too many builders try to be, oh, I build this and then I build something completely different, and they don't ever really get any systems in place. They just always end up chasing their tail. So it's nice when a builder actually takes in, brings some systems, and says, all right, here's my critical path to build my homes. Here's my process for when someone buys it. Do I build this specific home and then try to sell it, or do I do a design build and let people do that and design their own home, and then I'll build it for them? But ultimately, sales drives everything.
Well, how does a typical builder figure that out? Because I've always noticed that too with builders, that a lot of times, I'll have again, I came from a background as a realtor working with home builders. And so I had my own sense of what kind of product was going to be available or needed that everybody was asking for. But as a builder, do you automatically know that? Or is it just like I'm going to build a ranch, I'm going to build a whatever, this type of product or that? How do you get that data?
Well, I think and it depends on location too. I mean, if you're in a place like Texas, it's a lot easier because there's land everywhere. If you're in Florida right now, it's tough to get land. So you, first of all, try to find the land. Ideally, you're probably dealing with somebody who owns the land, and you come in and they have their own idea, excuse me, of what they would want you to build for them. So I think if you're starting up from scratch and you said, "Hey, I'm a builder. I got my contractor's license. I used to work for XYZ builder. Now I'm out on my own." I think you just have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to hire a sales team and just let them go out and sell what they want people want you to build? Or are you going to get a line of credit, build some stuff from the bank money, and then try to sell spec homes? I mean, you could specialize in whatever you wanted to do and be successful at it. You just need to kind of ultimately decide what you want to do, and then try to figure out the best way that you can to sell it.
And I want to ask about builders today. Coming into now we're halfway through 2023. I know you know lots and lots of builders all over the place. What do you sense the temperament is, or the biggest issues that builders are feeling today in the market? Is it?
I think it's a little bit of the backlash from that super hot market that we had that got created by COVID. So you dealt with people were told, "Hey, if you want to buy this home, it's $500,000. How much more than that will you give me?" That was the sales process for about almost 3 years, and I actually took advantage of that and jumped back into the market just to sell homes based on how insanely hot the market was. I mean, you had it was people coming to you every day saying, "I want a home, and your next release is when, and how much is it going to be, and I'll pay you X thousand dollars more than that." I was like, "Wow, this is unbelievable."
Yeah, that's awesome. But that's all died off. So
Oh, now it's like the backlash, and people are like, "Well, you told me what I was going to pay. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to pay, and it's going to be less than what you want." And there's a lot more demanding now. It's completely changed. My wife works with a major builder, Taylor Morrison Homes, and I live vicariously through her. She's not with me right now, but we share an office here, and I get to hear it. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I left that industry to go do something completely different.
Wow. And I'm going to get into that in just a minute here, because I think that's really important for realtors and builders to know as well, what's going on with the whole solar industry. But
yeah,
when you were doing this, so you're opening up these divisions, you're working at some stage with the salespeople. And did you have interface with the realtors at all with that, or you just interfaced with your salespeople and they interfaced with the realtors?
we did a lot of realtor events. Like we would host stuff at the model, have them catered, and you try to invite all the realtors that you can to get the maximum exposure to your product or your community, and both. And it was probably 70% working directly with mice or the sales team that worked with me, and 30% working with realtors, either going with them to show them how to visit a realtor office, and what type of information that would actually help the realtor versus what you want to give them. And then hosting the realtor events and stuff like that, just trying to interact with them as much as possible, because our whole business model was, we knew we were going to get 60 to 65% realtor. That was, if we did 10 deals, 6 to 7 of them were going to be directly with a realtor. And that's a word of mouth, almost like advertising, that, obviously we paid them commissions, but they were paying them based on their marketing skills and bringing us people that we could help, build a house for.
Now, this brings up a really interesting question that comes up all the time in conversations with realtors all over the United States. And it's, so I want to dive into this with realtor involvement. But one of the things that comes up a lot is pricing, right? And I'll have realtors and so I want to hear from, I want the realtors to be able to hear it from you, kind of your perspective on it. A lot of realtors will go, well, Ron, can't the buyer get a better price without a realtor being involved? Now, I've had builders that I know, builders up here that I've met with personally, known for a lot of years. They're like, no, I'm gonna price the home. I got to price, if I got model A on lot 100 and 101, and one of them has a realtor and one of them does not have a realtor involved, you can't change the pricing on the one without a realtor, can you? I mean, you know, if they're identical floor plan, same
Yeah.
same inside and everything, how's that work from your perspective?
And it depends on the builder, because I mean, there's not a general answer that's going to say, hey, this is applicable to every single builder. The ones I know, they either do one or two things. They actually look at the numbers and go, all right, last year I did 1,000 homes and 700 of them were with realtors. So when they set up their budget for the next year, they go, all right, we're budgeting in 70%, and we're trying to go from 1,000 to 1,200. So they take into account, hey, we're going to do 700 and what is that, 740 or something like that number with a realtor. So they know when someone comes in without a realtor, that's already accounted for. That, all right, the money that we would pay to realtor, we paid Google, or we paid Facebook, or we paid, I don't even know if people look at newspapers anymore, but whatever media they chose to use, they spent that amount of money to get that person without the realtor. So it's a wash for the realtor. It's like, all right, you don't have a realtor, but how'd you find us? Were you on Facebook? Were you on Google? Were you on Instagram?
Yeah.
So you're paying for it. You just paid for it through a realtor who did the marketing on their own a lot of times with their mailing list and the stuff they do they got to spend money to get, deals just like a builder does.
Right. So, guys, there's some really interesting kind of nuggets in here of what Jerrell is talking about that you ought to be, if you're listening in and you got any questions about this, be sure to drop them in the comments. But so it sounds like, you're creating a new home neighborhood. You got 100 homes. You're estimating for you guys at the time that out of those 100, 65 to 70% of them are coming through a realtor. Correct?
Yeah, right. Definitely correct.
So you budget in you plan on, out of 100 homes, you have to budget for, you cost out the homes as if they're, a realtor's going to be involved in 100% of them. Right. And then if you could get less than 70% or less than 60%, then you've kept money. Am I saying that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So if there's 100 homes, there's 100 commissions that are factored in, for those homes. It's just whether or not the realtor steps in and does something with it and brings a buyer.
Yeah, and most of your reputable builders, they don't offer better prices without realtors, because they know that why would you want to bite the hand that's feeding you 60, 70% of your business? I mean, that's just ignorance.
Yeah. I had one builder tell me, it would wreck his, and I never quite understood this, but he said it would wreck his basis points for the neighborhood if he gives the house at a different price. And so I never had the chance to ask him how exactly does that work?
He's worried about appraisals.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he's worried about. He's like, well, you sold home around the corner here for $10,000 less than this home. Why? And they just looked at each other like they didn't have a realtor. Appraisers go, I don't care whether they had a realtor or not. It's got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage. They're both 1,600 square feet. So then you bite the bullet and go, well, your home didn't appraise. I got to either tell the customer you got to pay more money, or 9 times out of 10, you just write a check to get it closed, and you spent the money anyway. So you might as well pay the realtor up front. Yeah.
Wow. These are interesting insights and perspectives. A lot of realtors never get to hear from a builder on. So I want to talk, kind of down and dirty about realtors for a minute. All right.
Sure.
And,
you can let me have it. I'll be straight with you.
You
There's some of them that are just complete assholes, just like the rest of us. There's builders that are assholes too.
Where's my bleep? Where's my bleep?
Sorry. I think you can say that word. You just can't say the stronger ones.
So, well, I mean, that's the kind of thing that realtors need to understand. We need to understand, and really, that's a big thing that I do all the time is, for realtors, what's the best way to work with builders? What was your, if you had to kind of sum it up, general experience with the typical realtor, tell me a little bit about that. I'm not talking
about the same old 10 out of, there's take 10 people in a room, no matter what they are, whether they're engineers or lawyers. 8 of them are usually pretty good people, just trying to do their job. Maybe they're new at it and then don't understand all the ins and outs of it, especially when you're dealing from, hey, I put a home on the multiple listing, and then someone, either comes by and I sell them, or another realtor comes by and I sell them. That's not the new home building world at all. I mean, there's completely different animals. So I think most of all, 8 out of 10 realtors, they're trying to do their best, and then their knowledge base is really what differentiates them. So, all right, is it someone who just knows how builders work, or is it a new person who just got their license and found their first customer and drags them out to XYZ builder thinking that they're going to do something completely different than the builder does? So I think that just creates friction for everybody. So I think if they could just educate themselves, take a day and just go around and visit some of the new home sales consultants on site with the area that you think you're going to quote unquote farm, and go, how can we best work together? You know, I got a client who wants the best price. You got a builder who wants the highest price. How do we make that work? And most, having been on site, most sales consultants for a builder would welcome somebody to sit down and, hell, they'll tell you their whole process and some procedures, and here's how we do this, and here's how long it's going to take to build the home, and here's what we're offering in terms of specials, and here's our release program with homes that are released. Here's the ones that are coming up. You know, they'll probably even introduce you to the construction manager if you wanted to, and say, hey, here's what the customer goes through on the back end with us. You know, we call them every week with updates. We have 5 or 6 walkthroughs with them. If I was a realtor, I would go with the approach of learn that, take them to the builder, and let the builder do their job. I mean, then you can focus on your specialty, which is mostly either finding buyers or finding sellers, or every aspect of the business as a realtor you focus on. You can spend more time doing that side and let the builder do their thing. Especially if you're dealing with reputable builders that you feel comfortable with. Like, hey, I can drop this off with XYZ builder, and I know they're going to be taken care of.
I've always, I got this personal belief that a lot of realtors, because they're not real strong or privy with new construction much, then they either kind of swing one end of the pendulum to the other. One is, they just want to drop the buyers off, get them registered, and hey, Jerrell, I'll see you at closing day. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I'll see you at closing day. Or, you have other realtors that try to take this extreme, that they're going to come in and negotiate hard and, put the builder in their place. And then neither one of them is the right approach. There's like I like the way you said that. How best can we work together to make this work for everybody?
Because if you have this type of buyer and you drop them off at the wrong builder, or bring them to the wrong builder, it's going to be a miserable experience. I mean, if you take somebody into they're expecting to be able to make some changes, and you take them to a strict builder that says we don't change anything, then everybody, like the sales consultant on site saying no, 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 and the customer's looking at them like, why am I here? If I go to McDonald's and want a filet mignon, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, we got Tony Anderson dialing in from Denver, Colorado. Tony, it's good to see you, man. We're with Jerrell Bass. If you got any questions, feel free to drop them in here.
Hey, Tony.
I'm glad that you're here. So, if a realtor's starting today, what are the top things that you feel like the things early on that realtors ought to know or ought to be learning? In the one you mentioned was, so you said learn the inventory of the neighborhoods, and I'm sure the homes, and connect with the sales reps. What else should a realtor really start to get a handle on?
I'd say financing, between those two. If you can learn the basics of, and you don't have to really learn it, you just really get teamed up with a good mortgage professional that can say, hey, this person can qualify for X. So you're not wasting the person's time or the builder's time, or, more importantly, your time as a realtor. Because if you spend all day on a Saturday showing people homes and don't have any idea what they qualify for, it's just done everybody a disservice. So I think if you learn the stuff from the builders, specialize in a couple of different builders. I wouldn't try to go from total production to total custom. I mean, it's just different skill sets. I would probably start with a builder. Learn the builders who just start with first-time buyers and go that route.
Right. Yeah. I always tell the realtors, pick a segment. If you're going to work with custom or semi-custom, if you're working with a small or mid-sized builder developer, go meet 10 of them and get to know kind of the way they see the world, what their problems and concerns are. And, what was the best way that for realtors to work with builders in general? I mean, is there any like tip or inside, one thing that realtors tend to miss when they're coming to work with you or any builder?
I think when you gave those two extremes, when you said, all right, the person that just kind of says, almost like tuck and roll as you drive by the model, drop them off and give them their lunch and pick them up in a few hours, to the extreme where the other person's, driving by the house, the realtor's taking it upon themselves to ride by the house and check construction. And a builder would rather have the first one all day long,
Well, yeah.
So if there's something you want to avoid being that helicopter realtor who's just into too many things. Because if you're dealing with a reputable builder, they're not going to expect someone to close on a home that's, you might ride by in the framing stage and see all kinds of mess. No builder in their right mind is going to ask a buyer to close on that. So don't waste your time on a Saturday going by looking at a home under frame and then going back to your customer and say, I rode by your home and it was a mess and da 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 da. Just let the builder do their job. So figure out what the builder does, see if that matches up with your client, put those two together. It's almost like a dating service. You don't go on dates with the people. You match up the right people and let them do their thing. It's comparable with a realtor, I would think. You don't want to be 100% hands off. You want to be there for the builder when they have questions or the buyers when they have questions, but you don't want to be into every aspect and wasting so much time. You're better off getting more leads and taking them, making more money.
So somewhere down the middle, it's not, drop them off, and it's not be too intrusive. And
yeah, if you're going to err on one side, err on the side of being drop them off. Every builder on the planet, if they were being honest, would say that. Like, all right, that realtor that's always up your, what, is just, everybody hates that person. They might not, they'll never say it to anybody, but behind the scenes, we've all said it. Like, gosh, that person's just not worth it.
Yeah, you said you guys did a lot of you've done a lot of realtor events,
right?
Yeah, did you set those up, or did the realtor set them up, or how did? And then probably varied, but what's that look like? How'd that work?
9 times out of 10, it's the builder setting it up in a model, or if it's the earliest stage it would be at is like, all right, we just got this piece of dirt and they're starting to put the infrastructure in, and so you just do a tent, like a dirty boots party, they would call it, like. Dusty boots, I think it was. You would have a tent and any type of beverages from sweet tea to beer and stuff like that, all the way up to a fully furnished model where you'd invite specific realtors, and if they wanted to bring a guest, and if it was a really nice home, you'd hire some local chef, or they'd come in and actually prepare a meal for 8 couples, and ideally it would be 4 realtor couples with 4 other families who are buying, and they could experience the Wolf appliances or the Viking appliances or the high-end GE appliances firsthand. Like, hey, this meal was cooked on here, so it would give them that imagination that, all right, you can do it yourself. So it was everything from a quick meet and greet to sit down and have a full-blown, professionally prepared 3-course meal.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
We encourage realtors to think outside the box and come up with new strategies to connect with the builder better, provide more value for the builders. I don't know if I ever told you the story, because we haven't kept up a whole lot in the last. We were down in Orlando for the IBS a year ago, and I've been to the IBS several times, so this was last year's, right? But we walked through the whole thing, and I never noticed this before, Jerrell, that. Were you there in Orlando at that one, by the way?
Nah, I had been to so many of those. I haven't been to one in probably the last 4 or 5 years, because if you're in the building world, it really doesn't benefit you a whole lot to go to it if you're not in the purchasing department.
Right. So, guys, just by way of context, IBS is the International Builder Show. It's enormous. I mean, you cannot even cover the whole thing. And then the one in Orlando was like 7 buildings. You're walking forever just to get through it. And everybody and their brother is there. Everybody. Kohler faucets, Anderson windows, Gel Wind, everybody's there. Any kind of big or small product or service supplier that sells to the building industry is present. But Jerrell, what was interesting, we got through the first day, and I turned around to Cindy. I was like, you know who's missing? And she's like, realtors. There's no realtors. Now, I'm sure
Yes.
there were some realtors in the crowd, but out of this whole event, you didn't see a Remax, a Keller Williams, an EXP, a Coldwell Banker, anybody, except for
That
Zillow.
is, yeah.
Or you didn't even see NAR. And it was like, but here's the weird thing about it. We went to a lot of classes, we were going to a lot of networking events, and every conversation, the builders are saying, Ron, how do we connect better with the realtors? So,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I think the realtors are always going, well, I don't know how to connect with the builders. Builders going, how do I connect with the right realtors? And there's just this big gap in between, that we need to find out how to connect better.
Yeah, that one's a tough one because every builder on the planet wants to solve that, and they want to host an event and have 10 realtors come out who have 10 clients who are a perfect fit for their product, and it never seems to happen. It's like you'll have one of those events, you'll send out an invitation for 100, 60 will reply, and then out of the 60, 30 will show up, and out of those 30, there's probably 50-50 producers and 50-50 that just ride around. They're realtors with their license, ride around for the free food.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
so I don't know. That's $1 million marketing question. If you get the right realtor with the right client to come to the right builder,
All right.
if you and I could solve that, we would be billionaires.
We're working on it. We're working on it. So, Jerrell, more recently, you switched over and you kind of set that whole career aside for a minute and tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm working with solar. I took up solar about 4 months ago, and I I actually just kind of stumbled into it. I saw an ad, got a quote for solar, ended up learning the benefits of it, where it allows you to actually own your own energy supply versus relying on another. It's kind of like when you say we're talking about homes. It's like, why we're talking about home buying, we haven't said one word about renting. And that's what everybody's doing with their power. They're renting their power, and you're at the mercy of, all right, does this power company want more money this month? Or they never go backwards. So I like the owning aspect. I get to own my own. I put panels on my home. We match it up to where it offsets my or anybody's usage by at least 100% if you can. Sometimes homes are in shadows and stuff, and it doesn't. But when you match it up right, you're offsetting all your power that you were getting from the grid, and you own it. It's generally about the same as what you're paying before. So if you had a $300 power bill, you're probably going to have about a $270 to maybe $310 solar bill, but that bill is locked in. It's never going to change. And there's a lot of people who are really into it for the environment. I can't honestly say that's my thing. I think I'm trying to do my little part, but it had nothing to do with my decision to go with solar. But some people, it's their whole solar decision is they want to reduce their carbon footprint and help the planet. So it just does all that. Is why I liked about it.
So currently, with the standard of where everything is today, and I know it's changing all the time. I see it every few weeks or something new with solar. But is there a cost reduction for people, or you're still paying the same, or?
It's kind of like I always do the analogy of the homeowner, because that's just my background. Is like if you're renting a home anywhere and you're paying, I don't know, $2,000 a month, and someone said, all right, you can buy this same home with no money down, and your payment is going to be, I don't know, even say worst case scenario is $2,100. Why wouldn't you do it? Just same thing with your power. It's like, all right, if you're paying three, I mean, I've talked to some people that have like $1,000 a month power bill, and I'm like, wow. If you could put a system on your house that you control and you own, and you're paying $1,100, or most of the time it's less, but I try to get people a realistic, could be more if you have a really big system. Why wouldn't you just own your power supply? And then there's all kinds of taxes. The government, if you look at what the government gets behind, they push what they want, and they usually eventually get what they want, no matter how painful they have to make it for the general public. I mean, look at what they've done to the cigarette industry. Not that I'm pro smoke cigarettes, but I remember kids, 50 cents for a pack of cigarettes. Now it's like $8.50. And my family grew up in the tobacco industry. They're not making any more off the tobacco. It's all taxes from your local to your state to your government. They're going to start doing that with the power supply to make it where, all right, we've been trying to be nice and incentivize you with tax credits to go solar. Now we're just going to keep upping the bill until you just say, well, hell, why wouldn't I go solar? I'm paying so much for power.
So if you're paying, the same or a little bit less, is it you're basically paying for the equipment and the maintenance?
Yeah, the sun is free. I mean, I like to joke and say, but the equipment to suck it in is not. So you're not paying anything up front. I mean, sometimes systems they usually range about $30,000 to $60,000.
Really?
But when you take those and finance it, if I can't get someone's payment pretty close or lower, it doesn't make any sense for anybody to do it. I mean, why would you take on something that has a higher payment than what you're already paying? But if you can pay the same or less and you own it and you not have to worry about that payment going up, it just totally makes sense to me.
So what's that do to the value of the property? I mean, are you seeing a change in the valuation?
It's kind of like when someone adds a pool to their home. You take $100,000 pool, add it on to a $500,000 house, you might get $100,000 for it, but 9 times out of 10 you don't. You end up getting probably somewhere around 70 to 80%. Same thing applies to solar. You put $100,000 solar system on your home. Appraiser comes by, and I haven't had an appraisal do this. I've just seen studies, so I'm just speaking from what I've actually read, not personal experience. Where someone adds, just again, say $50,000 system to their house, they'll probably end up getting somewhere about $35,000 to $40,000 bump in their house. All right, you're paying the same as you were for power bill. You just added, $30,000 to $40,000 to the value of your house, and you don't have to worry about the government or the local municipality going, "Hey, we're going to raise it 10% this quarter, and then we're going to raise it 10% next quarter." So,
where all do you provide those then? Now, Jerrell, is it primarily in Tampa area or Florida or?
I mean, for me, it's been easier for people that I've lived in Florida, I lived in Texas and North Carolina. So my relatability is best with those people, but I cover 27 different states. So virtually all of your sunny states like California, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and I don't know, 22 more states beyond that.
Do you see builders really adopting solar quite a bit now? No, they're kind of
no, because everything is such cost driven. So you'd have to be really good at saying, "I'm going to put these on my home, and then I'm going to sell it," but you're not going to have any power bill with my home versus that home. So a creative builder could make it work very, very well, but most builders are so cost conscious that they just, hey, if you're XYZ builder and somebody's ABC builder, and you're $40,000 less, most people aren't going to dive in and see why. They're going to be like, "Why? Looks the same to me." You'd have to almost have a big solar banner flashing over your house saying our home includes solar, and you don't have a power bill.
So it's too much additional risk for them to add that in.
Yeah, because you might bump people out of qualifying a little bit. Because you would, which is ironic because they would have a power bill that doesn't count as debt against them, but when they have a solar payment, it does count against them. So it's like if someone's on the verge of qualifying, a $300 payment could be the thing that makes or breaks it. And you don't want to be that builder that says, "All right, I got this on my home," unless you're in a market that's really catering to like environmental and green and stuff. You could really make it work there, but most places right now it hadn't quite got to that point yet. I think it will probably in the next 5 or so years, where it just becomes more and more mainstream. Kind of like Tesla. 10 years ago, you heard Tesla, "Oh, that's a golf cart car," and people joked about it. Now, I bet at least 2 out of 10 cars around my neighborhood have it, or Teslas. My personal self, I have one now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely love it.
And you're in Tampa, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got 3 neighbors down the street. We all have Teslas.
Yeah, Cindy and I were just down there in February. We should have gotten together with you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime. Great. We definitely show you a good time around here.
Yeah. So, well, Jerrell, this is very helpful for realtors. I think you've given everybody a really pretty good perspective on kind of what you've gone through and in your experience. I'd talk to Sherry sometime.
Yeah, you'd love to. A lot prettier to look at for the audience, and a lot more articulate for sure.
Yeah. I'll hold off on that.
I understand.
I'll hold off on that one. Man, it is so good to see
Actually, I'll
you.
show her to you because you see I'm not lying. I don't know if you can see her, but
What? I'm interviewing the wrong person here.
I'm telling you, man.
The world.
Yeah, I think she's got bad eyesight.
I'm saying it's got to be that. So,
Yeah, telling you.
hey, it is so good to see you on camera, and thank you for spending the time sharing with us your perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anytime I can help anybody, feel free to reach out. I got a lot of experience, so feel free to have people reach out to me.
Well, where is the best place for people to connect with you, Jerrell?
I have my solar site, so that's a quick, easy start. I mean, that does kind of put you on what you would call like a solar funnel. So if you weren't interested in solar at all, that might not be their best resource, but that would definitely get you in front of me. And you can just maybe make a note in there saying, "Hey, I just want to talk to you about real estate versus solar," and that won't be a problem.
Are you open to that? Are you open to connecting with
Yeah,
realtors
yeah, of
about?
course.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, because
yeah.
I remember when I was getting started fresh out of college and like, man, I didn't know anything. I was like, I got blessed to be with him at a time, I consider him old at the time. He was in his 60s. Now it seems kind of young, but he took me under his wing and he's a lot like me. He had built homes, sold homes, and just kind of figured, hey, I'm in my 60s. I can just go back and sell homes for Ryland and make a really good living. And so he walked me through the whole construction process and the building process. And he had been a realtor. I gladly would do that for somebody else. Makes a
Well,
huge difference.
thank you so much, guys. As I said at the top of the hour, if you were on at the top of the hour, when Jerrell and I met several years ago, I found him to be just one of the most kind and sharing and informative big builders, and he's had just a wealth of experience on kind of all sides of the business. So I would definitely take him up on it and connect with him. Is that okay to say, Jerrell?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
If you
going to
can figure out
find.
how to market, come to me and let me know too. Because anybody that's good at marketing, a lot of traditional now people that are getting out of marketing, getting into realtors are killing it. So I would say if you could team up with a good marketing person to get your business, spend some money and get your business off the ground with a good marketing person.
That's what we're doing now. That's exactly
Yeah,
what we're doing. That's what Hoodle is about, and we're bringing in some really world-class marketing people. Um, if you guys are not already here, and I don't know where you are, where you're dialing in from, but you can always, oh, that's the wrong one. Join our New Home Niche Blueprint group. And in fact, I think Jerrell, you're in that group, aren't you?
yeah.
I believe so. So you can join the New Home Niche Blueprint group, and that's a good place to find Jerrell. And it is Jerrell, not Jerrell.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's a good place to find Jerrell and connect with him. And um, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out. Reach out to me if you're trying to get in touch with Jerrell. You'll find just him to be a wonderful and informative friend and builder that you can learn a lot from along your way. So, Jerrell, thanks so much for meeting today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime, just reach out.
All right, well,
And
tell
definitely reach out when you're in Tampa. I'm still a Texan in my mind.
Wait, so when I go down to Texas, you want me to call in
Yeah,
Florida?
call me, and I'll fly over to Texas to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get out of Tampa. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll meet you down at the Greek Village down in Tarpon Springs.
I
Okay,
love that. Yeah, nice.
there's a really nice restaurant down there. So, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
tell Sherry I'd like to interview her sometime. And
Sure.
you have an amazing day. I'll talk to you.
All right. Thank you, Ron.
All
See you
right.
later.
Talk to you later. Bye.